We appreciate you making the time to join 11 Live and the Georgia Vote. Let's start here. Why are you running for Congress?
Well, Zach, thank you for that question. And that question is a very easy question. You know, I lived there in Northwest Georgia and did 40 years in the military. After my service in the military, some other veterans that were Republicans came and actually asked me to run. And I told them, I said, guys, I don't want to run. I'm a Democrat. And I thought they would say, okay, we don't want to do anything with that, Shawn. And they said, no, we still want to support you. And then I said, well, what's the reason? They said, because we're tired of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And from that, we started this campaign, and this is something I always ask no matter where I'm at. What has Marjorie Taylor Greene done for you? And the answer to that is absolutely nothing. So that is the reason why I'm running. I'm looking to make sure that I wake up every day and work hard for the people in Northwest Georgia to make sure that they actually got somebody that's focusing on them versus focusing on themselves.
We want to ground this conversation in issues that voters have routinely told us are the most important ones to them as they get ready to cast their ballot in just about a week now. So let's start here. Frequently at the top of the list of issues that are important, voters tell us, is the economy, in particular inflation. If voters send you to DC, if they elect you, how will you tackle the inflation problem in America?
Well, I thank you for that question. And the way I get at it is answered this way. Before I came to see you today, I spent my morning with farmers here in Georgia, talking about these hurricanes that just came through and how it's destroyed so many of our farms and where we're standing right now. As I go to DC, or when I go to DC, the first thing I would do is make sure that I'm going to reach across the aisle with Democrats and Republicans to get the yes. Because right now what's actually happening in DC is no real adults in the room. And the individual that I'm running against is one of the main ones that creates this chaos. So how do I get to yes? Is being an adult in the room, reaching across the aisle and saying, where can we agree? And let's get that passed and move forward. Because at the end of the day, everything that we do in the DC should be focused back on the people, not if it's going to be good for Democrats or Republicans. So that's how I'm going to get at that particular issue, by working with the greater team, what I call Team Georgia.
You talk about reaching across the aisle, working with that team and getting to yes. From a policy perspective, though, what would you like to get to yes on? What does the plan look like?
I can tell you, as we discuss and further develop things out, that policy is this, is one, making sure that we bring down the cost of everyday living. As you know right now, groceries, gas, and all those things are high. It is things that we can actually do together to bring those costs down. In addition to that, right now, many of the American people are concerned when it comes to, you hadn't asked me yet, but I've gone and touch it. They're already concerned about what's happening across the border. That is an issue that working together across the aisle, that we can actually shut down the border right now. I'll be the first one to tell you that the border is open. We must close it. And I'll be the first one to reach across the aisle and say, you know what? The bill that we had on the table from our Senate side of the House with Republicans, we just need to get that passed. As we get that passed, other things will start going down with the economy, and people can focus on the things they need to focus on here back at home.
For those who may not have followed the Senate bill, the bipartisan immigration bill that originated in the Senate that you're referring to, for those who may not know the specifics of it, I think they might want to hear from you on what specifically you liked in that bill.
I tell you exactly what I like. One, I like the fact that we was going to put more border edges on the ground. We was going to make sure that immediately we was going to shut the border down to ensure that we stop the people coming across the border. Then in addition to that, we was going to put additional help on this side of the border to make sure we can identify and at the same time make sure that we taking care of the people that is here in the United States, but taking care of them in the right way. When I say in the right way, nobody's going to skip the line and get in front of somebody that came here the right way. But I'm also not the guy that's saying we're going to separate children from their families and just send them back. So we're going to be humane in the way we're doing it. But at the end of the day, what I would tell you, that particular bill was agreed upon bill by Democrats and Republicans that was ready to be passed. It would not have been an issue right now if a certain phone call didn't happen to cause the Republican Party to back away from it.
And when you say a certain phone call, you're referring to?
Referring to President Trump. He made the phone call to the Speaker of the House, and from there, the Republican Party backed off of it.
You seem really interested in bipartisanship. You mentioned repeatedly in our conversation already about reaching across the aisle. We hear that a lot from folks running for office. Every race, somebody wins and they go to DC. And I think a lot of folks who are watching this will be thinking at this point in our conversation, a lot of people talk about it before they get elected. By the time they get to DC, we sure don't see a whole lot of bipartisanship. What makes you think that you can break that gridlock where other folks have not been able to?
The way I can break it is simple. Like I told you earlier, I've spent 40 years in the military. This is not my first day going to Washington, D.C. So nobody don't have to give me a tour guide or any of those type things. The difference is I was not in D.C. as a politician. I was in D.C. as a soldier. So I actually have briefed Republicans and I briefed Democrats across the aisles. So they already know that I am the individual that tells them the truth in my other capacity. However, when I come to DC this time, I plan to seek out the adults on both sides of the aisle and say, okay, let's work together to get to yes. And I think after this election is done, I think the people in the United States want Congress to get things done, because this current Congress that is up there is one of the worst ever in the history of our country when it comes to getting things done. I'm not pointing fingers at the Democrats. I'm not pointing fingers at the Republicans. That is just a fact. Nothing has been done. And the lead person that causes it not to be done is the person that I'm running against, is Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Let's shift gears and talk about another issue we are told frequently voters are keenly aware of and keenly concerned about, and it should come as no surprise. Earlier this year at Appalachia High School, a gunman opened fire, killed 4 people, many others were injured. If you're elected, what will you do to stop these mass shootings?
Well, you're exactly right. That was a very bad day here in the great state of Georgia. Let me just say right up front, because my opponent loves to try to frame me and other Democrats as I'm going to come and take your gun or all those kind of things. Tell you point blank, I spent 40 years in the military. Most of my training and what I did for people in the military was training senior leaders around the world, and part of that is training them with our weapon systems. Okay, I personally carry. Okay, I live in Northwest Georgia in the country, so I'm not coming to take anybody's guns. However, what I will say is this: an AR-15. We need to get our hands around it, because right now that is the weapon of choice when it comes to young people going to schools and shooting up kids. What I mean by that is this: we need to put more restrictions on that, and we need to make sure that we holding parents accountable, just like what's currently happening right here in Georgia right now. So I'm not coming to get your pistol and those kind of things, but I will say this: I will work across the aisle to say, okay, how can we get responsible gun owners to be able to be responsible when it comes to their weapons, so that kids that are perhaps having a mental illness situation cannot get their hands on it easily. And if parents make the decision to buy a weapon for their son or daughter, then that parent should be held responsible for that. And that's what's currently happening in North Georgia right now on that particular case.
You said when it comes to AR-15s, you want to make sure we can get our hands around it. Specifically, what do you mean by that? Are you looking to outlaw the possession of AR-15s?
Oh, no. What I mean by that is, if you have the weapon, let's make sure we have all the safety procedures in place, locking it up, make sure those particular things.
And legislation that requires that.
Legislation that requires that. Now, when I say that, that's why I'm saying I'm willing to work across the aisle, because I want to make sure that we have the right words. I want to make sure that we got the right words. I don't want to make this a political issue. However, I think we all can agree that when we send our kids off to school, none of us ever think that that may be the last day that you're going to see your child. So that's the lens that I'm actually looking through, is based on the fact that kids are being killed here in Georgia and throughout the United States. What can we do as responsible gun owners? And you notice I'm touching myself. I am a responsible gun owner. However, I don't want any of my weapons getting out of my gun safe and some kind of way ending up at a school for whatever reason and shooting up kids.
Another big issue here in Georgia is access to abortions.
Yes.
As you know, right here in Georgia, we have what is commonly known as the heartbeat bill. It's state legislation that bans most abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. Do you support Georgia's heartbeat bill?
No, I tell you that right off the top. I want to make sure that a woman, a female, has the ability to make her own decision with her doctor. My doctor, I'm not sure if you looked at my background, my wife is a doctor, and I just believe that that is a decision between a woman and her doctor and her family. We should not have the government in our business. And I think that common sense Republicans also agree with me is that based on what is currently happening right now, states, not only Georgia, but some other states like Texas, have went way too far. And I think it's just created chaos out here right now.
There are those here in Georgia and around the country who argue that a fetus, once conceived, deserves the full rights of a human being. And when viewed in that lens, they argue that abortion is tantamount to murder. To people who say that, what do you say in response?
What I would say to that is, thank you for your opinion. I'm never going to say that you're right or that you're wrong. What I will say is this: if that is your position, I will say, hey, then when the child is born, that same amount of energy that you put on the child while it was in the mother's womb, I want you to put that same amount of energy in making sure that child has all the access and everything possible to make he or she very successful from the time that they are born all the way till they can actually stand on their 2 feet. Because right now, we have many children that are born into poverty, and we kind of walk away from them. So that's where I would say, I'm not going to say that I'm ever right when it comes to this particular issue. What I will say is this: I know where I stand, and I also know that I'm willing to work with people across the board to get the yes. I think when I walk out of here today, you will say, out of all the people you want to talk to, Shawn Harris is the only one that comes in here that seriously comes across is that he's willing to work with people. And as you know, in Washington, D.C., none of us agree on the same thing. None of us. And even in my Democratic Party, we don't all agree on this particular subject. So I have to find balance in my Democratic Party. I got to find balance inside of the Republican Party. And now I got to find balance inside of what we call the new Republican Party. So it's going to be a lot of hard work, but that's why I always have my sleeves rolled up. I've never been scared of work.
One of the questions we have asked your opponent, and we want to ask you as well, the 2020 election is fresh in the minds of a lot of folks who are going to cast their ballot this year.
Yes.
A lot of people remember what happened after the 2020 presidential election.
Yes.
I want to ask you this directly. Regardless of who wins your race against Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Yes.
regardless of who wins the presidential race this year, will you support the ultimate winners in these races?
The answer to that is absolutely yes, period. And the reason why I say that is because I was overseas when that was actually happening. Actually, I was about to go overseas. I was still in Washington, D.C., just right down the street from it, preparing to go over to Israel. So I got a chance to see it face right then and there. And I will say this, as somebody who spent 40 years in the military, I believe in our Constitution. I plan that if Vice President Harris wins or our past President Trump wins, whoever that is, I'm going to work with that individual when I get to Washington, D.C., period. If I lose this race against Marjorie Taylor Greene, I will pick up the phone that night when your news says that I actually lost, and I'm going to call Marjorie and say, Marjorie, best of luck. You have my support. Whatever I can do for you and your team back here in Northwest Georgia to help people out, I'm willing to do that. That's what leaders do. Now, I'm not 100% about Marjorie, but I think I know her answer. Her answer is going to be exactly what she's already doing. Last week, she said that somebody was trying to break the rules up in Whitfield County, and that was debunked on your station and Meet the Press and everybody else. Shawn Harris believes in the rule of law. Shawn Harris believes in the Constitution. Shawn Harris believes in the transfer of power in a peaceful manner. And that's where I'm going to always be, and that's what I'm going to do.
Let's close here as we wind into the final moments of our conversation. We want to be respectful of your time, of course. It is no secret that the Georgia 14th is a heavily conservative skewing district here in Georgia. It routinely votes conservative. There are some who may ask, Shawn Harris, you're a Democrat running in a district that tilts heavily towards conservatives.
Right.
Why run?
You know, and thank you for that question. You know, if you went back 58 years ago when I was born in 1966, and I was born in a little small town called Blakely, Georgia, on a dirt road that's still a dirt road today, people probably wouldn't have said that I was going to grow up and be a general officer either. And I was not going to leave men and women in combat, and I wasn't going to represent the United States and Israel. They would have said all those things. And to the weak mind, you probably would have believed them. But now I live in Northwest Georgia, and I know for a fact that it's Democrats, independents, and common sense Republicans that have looked at Marjorie Taylor Greene and asked a simple question. What has she done for me? The answer to that is no, nothing. That simply means that is why I am getting the votes today. And that's why Marjorie Taylor Greene has been home for a full 30 days. She refused to debate me. She refused to be seen anywhere in public around me because she does not have a record to stand on. After 3.5 years she's been in D.C., she can't point to one real tangible thing that she's actually done to improve the lives of the people in Northwest Georgia. The last thing I would say is this. Marjorie Taylor Greene, if she wins this election, she's already made it public because some Republicans have already brought it to my attention, that she plans to announce that she's going to be running for Senate. And when she runs for Senate, these next 2 years, she's going to be focused on running for the Senate versus working for the people as their representative. So instead of having 3.5 years of nothing, if they decide to vote for her and make her the representative, they're going to end up with 5 years of nothing. And then at the end of the day, Northwest Georgia will miss out on generational jobs. Northwest Georgia will miss out on making better health care access for everybody in the district, and 40,000 plus veterans that Marjorie Taylor Greene said she would never serve in the military or let her son serve in the military because that's a waste of your life. Well, I would tell you, I did not waste my life, and 40,000 other veterans that live in Northwest Georgia didn't waste our life. And at the end of the day, I would get up every day and work for them, and I work for our seniors. That's why Marjorie Taylor Greene don't want to see me in person, because I have a record of tested leadership, because leadership matters. Marjorie Taylor Greene has nothing to stand on but a whole bunch of talk, a whole bunch of following Donald Trump around, but doing nothing for our community.
I just want to jump in here and be clear. Your comment about Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene planning a run for Senate, that's the first time that we're hearing about this here. So to anybody who's watching, we have not confirmed that. That has not been officially confirmed. We just want to be really clear about that. I want to close here, Shawn. To an undecided voter who may be watching this, who is still trying to make up their mind about who to vote for in this race, your final closing pitch to them would be what?
My final closing pitch would be this. You have a simple choice between a retired brigadier general that has served you for the last 40 years and you didn't even know it, and a congressman that has proven that she's in a civil war with Republicans in Washington, D.C., and a civil war with Republicans here in Georgia. When you're in the middle of a civil war, you can't get the yes at all. What I would say to them is this. Yes, I live in a ruby red district. I raise a cattle for a living. When you own a cattle farm or you buy a cattle farm, you're not going to leave no time soon. I'm going to be in Northwest Georgia the rest of my life. At the end of the day, you know what you get with Marjorie Taylor Greene, which is nothing. Vote for me. Put me up there for 2 years. Hold me accountable. And if I don't actually produce for you, 2 years from now, vote me out. But just suppose I get there and produce for you. You may find out that Shawn Harris is a Democrat that can work with everybody across the board, and I don't want to see Northwest Georgia in any way get left behind, because right now, that's my greater concern, is that Atlanta and other places around us are going to further develop, and we're going to be left out there on an island and can't stand our way forward.
Shawn Harris, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.